is Emily. Welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, I am going to be taking the prior year's mid-year book freak out tag and kind of tweaking it to my liking and sharing my faves and least faves of what I've read so far in the year 2023. First question is best read so far. I have read quite a few books this year. I believe I'm sitting at 191 at this moment in time, which is the beginning of June. And of those 191 books, I only had 30 that I actually gave a solid 5 stars based on the ColorPal rating system. And of those 30, it was kind of hard to narrow it down to one, but I did finally figure out which one I think would stand out the best out of all those, and that is Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. And this one, I think it just resonated with me because I really loved the story overall and the characters' growth, as well as the strong magic system and world building within here. It hit on all those points. We had good characters, great world building, character growth, witty banter at times, and some of the quotes and stuff within this narrative really did hit home with me in the real world too. So that's why I think this is my top read so far this year and why I gave it a solid 5 stars. The second question is the best sequel read so far. And for sequels, I think hands down the best one I've read so far is Dragon Haven by Robin Hobb, which is the second book in the Rainwild Chronicles. I've read 3 of the 4 in this installment of the series. And the first one was, I think, a 4-star, and the City of Dragons was the same, which that's the third one, was a 4-star. And this one I did give a solid 5 stars because I felt it was a lot stronger than the first book now that we were introduced to all the characters and had really gotten to know them. So I was really engaged to see what was happening as they traveled up the river looking for the lost elderling city of Kelsingra. And I really did enjoy everything that unfolded here and all the developments that happened between the dragons and characters throughout. So definitely hands down the best sequel of the year. For a new release that I want to read this year, and it's actually on my TBR for the month of June, that is Spellbound by F.G. Lukens, which is the third novel of theirs that I will be reading. I read the prior 2 published works, and now I'm so excited to read this one because I love the prior 2, and I hope I love this one as much. And this is more geared towards YA, and it is set in a world of magic, and we're following this kid that doesn't have any magic but wants to get back into the magical world. And that's kind of just a brief little summary. I don't want to go too deep into it to spoil it because I don't want to spoil myself, but I can't wait to read this one. My most anticipated books for the second half of the year, hands down, have to be the Secret Project books 3 and 4 that are to be released by Brandon Sanderson, and I have pre-ordered and I'm waiting for them to come once they are released, as well as I believe V.E. Schwab will be releasing her installment into the Darker Shade of Magic series, which is the Fragile Threads of Power. So that's another one I'm looking forward to reading the second half of this year once it's released. For biggest disappointments, I have 2 that I selected. The first one is Half the World by Joe Abercrombie, and this is the second book in the Half a King series. I've actually unhauled the whole series because the second book just disappointed me that badly. It was nowhere like the first book was, and I was just so let down. And the other book that was a disappointment was Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I really adored The Love Hypothesis, and I loved it so much I read it in one day. However, Love on the Brain, I just felt it was too tropey. Like, I do love a good guilty trope. This one just had everything. We had enemies to lovers. We had suddenly there's someone trying to shoot somebody at the end. The bad guy was extremely predictable, and all the plot points were super predictable for this rom-com. Therefore, it was kind of a disappointment because I figured everything out before I even got to the end and didn't have any twists for me. For biggest surprise, I selected 2 books once again. One is a fiction and one is nonfiction. I selected Stiff by Mary Roach. I'm not a big nonfiction reader, so I went into this not really expecting much, thinking it would probably only be like a 3-star read. This actually turned out to be 5 stars for me. I really enjoyed how knowledgeable this book was. The narrator was very engaging if you decide to listen to this on the audiobook, because it got that dry humor across. And I learned so much about human cadavers and how they are used in science. The other biggest surprise I had was Emily Wild's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This is the very first book I completed this year and was in one of my fairy loot boxes. And this one, I didn't know what to expect because I hadn't heard anything about this book at all. So I was just like, it might be just a 3-star read since it hadn't been very advertised. And I was shocked because it turned out being a 5-star and was one I couldn't put down. It was just that good. And also it's stunning as well. For new favorite character, a character I really did enjoy was in The Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune, and that is our lovely sociopathic nurse Ratchet. I really enjoyed their quotes that they gave off and just the character overall, because who doesn't love a robot nurse that is also a sociopath? So very hilarious banter, and really did enjoy trying to figure out what Nurse Ratchet was going to say next. It's hard just to choose one for the most beautiful purchase because I do tend to buy books because they are pretty. And so I ended up narrowing it down to 4 that I've got this year that I thought were very beautiful, which was Emily Wild's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I really do like the simplicity of this cover, but the most stunning part, of course, are the sprayed edges, which is why I really thought this book was beautiful. Another one that I really enjoyed was Below. I thought this cover is absolutely stunning, and I hope the story itself lives up to the stunningness of this cover. Of course, for most beautiful purchases, we can't forget the Secret Project books by Brandon Sanderson, which is Trust of the Emerald Sea, and the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. These books are just absolutely stunning, like throughout, as well as the interior are so well made too, with all the images and artwork inside. So these are definitely worthy purchases to my library. For books I need to read before the end of the year, probably my whole TBR, which is sitting about 350 books right now. As well as I should probably definitely be prioritizing my 29 books to read before 30, because unfortunately I will be 30 in January. And then I also decided to select 3 chunkers that I do want to try to prioritize before the end of the year. I want to complete The Fall of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. This is the final book in the Books of Babel series. It's a chunker, and the writing's not very big in size, so it's definitely tedious to read, though the series has been outstanding so far, and I really want to get this one read so I can have the series complete. I also selected Don Quixote, which I have started, got about halfway, and then lost interest and never finished. So I do want to try to get this done before the end of the year. It's very hefty, it's a classic, and it's a commitment. The final book I want to spotlight that I want to finish before the end of the year is another chunker, because I guess chunky books tend to be a trend for me, starting and not finishing, and that is Battle Royale. I got about 120 pages in last year and lost interest and never picked it back up again. Though the story itself I was enjoying, I just wasn't in the mood to read this type of story at the time, and trying to get back into the mood has been difficult to pick up something so hefty, because it is a commitment, obviously, because it's huge. But maybe I'll get it done before the end of the year. I guess that's it for today's video. I know I'm kind of early on the mid-year freakout tag because the questions for this year have not officially been released yet. So I'm using last year's questions because I figured I might as well film it while I'm thinking about it and have the time to sit down, because I won't have much time the rest of this month because I won't really be home much. I'll be doing my second job, which involves me not staying at my house, but other people's while I watch their animals and their houses while they're on vacation. So don't have as much time to film when I'm not home. But anyways, I guess that's it for today's video. Now that I've rambled about my life, that I'm sure y'all don't really care to hear about. You're here for the books instead. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to click the like and subscribe button down below. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. And thanks for watching today.